Hello, everyone. Today is going to be about why you shouldn't do a fake tilt shift. And the first thing we're going to have to do is talk about what exactly a fake tilt shift is. I think this is really important because I don't think we're sort of organized enough to even know this between us because it hasn't been, the nomenclature hasn't been set in stone or anything. So sometimes you will hear people talk about fake tilt shift, and what they're actually talking about, I'm just going to get the crop tool. And by the way, this is the method I recommend that I'm showing you right now. I highly recommend this method. So this is none of the photos in this particular lesson are mine, by the way, but I just grabbed them because I'm having trouble with a hard drive of mine. But this is a fake tilt shift, and you're just coming in and cropping in after you've shot wide on purpose. And if you can see that, I'll go ahead and execute that crop. It totally took out the ceiling. It's essentially doing what a tilt shift lens does, but you're keeping your camera level. That's going to be the main key in this particular lesson. You're keeping your camera level. I highly, highly recommend these techniques like we just saw here, where it's a fake tilt shift, but you're keeping your camera level. Now, to confuse you, what people normally call fake tilt shifts, I feel, is this technique right here. So this is what people are really talking about when they talk about fake tilt shifts. So I would say in general, but just keep in mind that might be called a fake tilt shift too. That's why I was saying the nomenclature, we're not really on the ball. But here's another way you can fake tilt shift. And what people do now, they're not keeping their camera level, right? He's pointing this down. So what he's trying to do is show less of the ceiling with this really wide lens, and then he's going to get in here and fix this in post. And what we're going to do, we're going to look at this two ways, and what this video is about is why you should never, ever, ever do this. It's a horrible idea, in my opinion, okay? There's going to be opinions about this because I know there's guys out there that do this, but I feel like it's slower and it totally, completely distorts your photos beyond belief. It's sort of maybe not as recognizable as you may think in an architectural photo many times, but I just want to get the point across how much you're completely distorting your photos. So I'm going to repeat all that. Highly recommend this method right here where you're coming in, keeping your camera level and cropping. I think that's great. We always have plenty of megapixels in real estate photography to work with. We're not lacking in that. So great method. And even better method, and I have a whole video up on this, is something where you're actually using a tilt shift lens and you can get the composition you want by sort of shifting your lens and getting less ceiling. And then when you get home, you could even crop more. So I'll go ahead and link that video if you're curious about that. That's the ultimate control, where you're using a tilt shift lens and using this technique I'm talking about right here, about cropping from the top right or the top left. Okay, the top right or the top left. That eliminates ceiling in your photos. You could also do the opposite. For example, if this was a exterior, you might have too much grass or ground, right? You could crop from the top lower left and the top lower the lower left and the lower right. Okay, it would just be the opposite for an exterior. Keeping your level, your camera level, and going ahead and cropping out that stuff you don't need on the bottom of your photo, which would be, pavement or ground. All right, so great technique there. Once again, we're going to talk about why I feel this technique right here is terrible. So here we go. We're going to get in here. And what we're going to do first is we're going to just straighten this guy out. We're going to do a sort of just a quick job here. And how you normally straighten a photo in Photoshop is you'll use the skew command. So I'm just going to grab that skew and I'm just going to really quickly straighten this out. All right, we got these lines over here. And once again, this is that fake tilt shift version 1 or version 2, however you want to look at it. But that looks pretty good over there, and we're just going to get this guy straight over here. And actually, let me back up for a second there, because one of the ways I wanted to show you guys about this was putting little boxes on here. So I forgot about that. So I'm going to go ahead and get this tool up here, this square tool. And I'm just going to put a couple, I'm holding down shift, and that's going to give me a definite square. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stroke that square with, see there, with some white. So I'll just go ahead and stroke that. And it looks like we got it all set up there. So I just stroked that square with a white brush, and let's see how that looks. Yeah, it looks fine. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate this layer a few times. I don't know. Let's see if I can duplicate double like that. Yeah, I can. All right, so we got 4 squares now. So you're gonna see what I'm doing here in a minute. So I'm just gonna move these around, and these are just gonna give us an idea of how much our photo is getting contorted when we do this. When we do this technique with the um, which one is it? There it is. When we do this technique with the the tilting our camera down, okay, which I do not recommend. Okay, we're just gonna keep those there, and what I'll do is I'll just flatten this document. And so once again, keep in mind we're gonna do the normal technique here and skew this. So this is how people do it. They go ahead and skew it, and we'll get in there. I just put those boxes so you can get an idea of how bad the photo is just getting contorted out. Okay, that's why I did that. So we just want to get an idea. We could get in there and measure it after and stuff. We're not going to get that crazy. We just want to know sort of what's going on with our photo. Okay, so let's just do a decent job with this. Let's just assume that mirror over there is pretty straight, which it doesn't have to be, right? Okay, and I'm going off that little window back there. So for our purposes here, I think this is good enough. I'll just check it really quickly again here. And it looks like it might need a little bit more on this side. So I just pull that out a little more. And that should, for our purposes, that should do okay. All right, so I'll move everything there. I'll go ahead and get rid of all that distracting stuff. And we'll zoom in a little bit. And as you can see, so look at how much bigger this box is, and not only that, it's elongating too, right? If we measure this and the top right here right now, this would be more of a rectangle, not a square anymore. So this is what you're doing to your photos, and I want to go through some photos with you that are gonna be more pronounced, just so you can see what you are doing to your files if you use this technique. Okay, I think this makes a lot of sense, at least to me, because with an architectural photo, things are in the foreground. They're sort of overemphasized, and they're maybe they're bigger because you're using a wide angle lens. They're just, you know, in terms of things relative to the background, things in the foreground. So we don't really get a good idea of how much this is distorting our photos when we point the camera down in our interiors work. So what I did here, I really think this is a great way to look at it. First of all, we saw these squares getting relatively much more distorted on the bottom than the top, right? That was our first way of looking at that. And second, I want to do some of the same thing. This is just a photo I pulled in of a human being, and what we can do is a great command. I actually almost made a whole video on this one time, but I thought it'd be so short nobody'd watch it. But you can transform again. So what we're going to do, we're just going to transform this photo the same exact way that we just transformed that last photo right here. Okay, that's all we're going to do. We're going to transform the photo the same exact way. And the point here is going to be how much photos get distorted. And I think looking at women is a really good sort of example of this, because, you know, the body and the face or whatever is getting distorted. And I made a little mistake there. I transformed the bottom layer, so we'll go ahead and do that again on the correct layer. So, and you're going to be able to see how much her body is being distorted and how sort of awkward this is. Now look at that. That is what you're doing to your photos. If you use that technique, I don't know how else to put it. That is what you're doing to your photos, even though they may look a little bit better than this photo, right? But you're stretching out. You're making like a totally unreal, like Wonderland photo when you do that. It's absolutely 100% not a good technique. And I think this right here proves it. Just for fun, and since it's so easy, we're going to go through a few more of these. Okay, transform again, a really cool command. I use it all the time. You make a little mistake and you can take out your top layer and go back and fix your layers. But look at this. I did again. No editing in these live videos, so I did the bottom layer again. So we'll go ahead and try that again. Just look at what's going to happen to this photo. Just completely, I mean, that might be a fun house technique you're going for, right? Like a joke mirror, right? But nothing we want to be anywhere near in our architectural, professional architectural imagery, right? Okay, let's move up. We got more of a facial one here, and it's really nice and centered, and so we're gonna get to see just what's going on here. And you'll notice an almost tilting back too. Notice what's happening there. Like her neck just got a lot closer to us. It almost feels like the photo is tilting back. Once again, this is what you're doing to your interiors photos when you use that technique, when you're tilting up or down with a camera. Do not do that. Get a tilt shift lens, and that's the ultimate in control. And along with the cropping method that we looked at the start, which I really want to emphasize, I feel like that cropping method is the real fake tilt shift technique. That's the one people should be using. This isn't even a technique people should even be using. It actually takes more time too. On site, you gotta point your camera down, and then you have to do stuff in post. Okay, so let's just keep looking at, like, I almost made the mistake again, but I caught it that time. Let's just look again here, what's going on. Just absolutely horrendous stuff going on in these files. So look at that. Leaning back, just all sorts of weird stuff going on. Okay, and we'll do one more just to sort of end off here. One more last example. And this is going to be it though. Yeah, I feel like if this doesn't convince you, so look at those shoulders. Look at what's going on here. It looks like, what's that, Beetlejuice, right? Beetlejuice, if you guys have seen that movie. It's just horrible. Do not do this to your photos. Don't kid yourself. You're doing that to your photos, okay? We just did that in that image down there. And so we can go ahead, and what we can do is we can come back here and just do it again on that, just so you can see what it would look like. Get an ambulance going by. Just so you can see what it would look like without those boxes or anything on there. And that's how it would look. And you see this technique a lot. And like I was saying, sure, it's an architectural photo, and you're not seeing the distortion the way we see it, the way we saw it in the women, but still, it's there, okay? The photo is leaning back. Things are getting stretched out up here to a really exaggerated extent, all right? So if you're gonna do any type of simulation, I'll call it, for a tilt shift lens, go ahead and do this cropping method. Don't forget, shoot wide, get the widest lens you can. It's a good lens for your camera, for your system, and go ahead and crop in just like that. That's a great way. And if you want, once again, I'll link this video, but if you want the ultimate in control, shoot with a wide tilt shift lens, the widest possible. For example, Canon makes a 17mm, and then you have the ultimate in control, because you can go ahead and shift up and down in your camera, and then you can do it more like you just saw here when you get home. All right, so thanks for listening, guys. Do not do those tilt down, tilt up. It makes sense. Architectural photography, keep that camera level. Okay, that's one of the tenets of architectural photography. Maybe if you're doing details, maybe you're doing some more artistic stuff, of course you can get the camera not on perfectly level, but stuff other than that, keep it level, keep it level, keep it level. Every single level out there, high and low, I feel like keeping that camera level is one of the number one pieces of advice I can give. And if you're really advanced and you feel like you know what you're doing and you want to tilt the camera down, of course, you're gonna. All right, so thanks again, guys. I will see you for the next one.